Talking about making a terrarium. First of all, what is a terrarium? It's growing small plants in a clear container, usually with a lid. But it doesn't have to be, especially now that we are really enjoying some of our succulents. We know with the lid on the container, the succulents would probably stay too wet. But there are other plants that we can use without a lid too. We just have to pay a little more attention to it. The history of the terrarium started in record about 2,500 years ago. So it was in Greece, growing plants in a transport container, a transparent container. Dr. N.B. Ward from England is credited actually with inventing the terrarium. He published a book in 1842. And this is a Wardian case that is shown. It's like a mini greenhouse that was used to transport plants across the world. So could you imagine being in the Americas or even being in from Europe in Asia trying to bring a plant back from one place to another? So this is how we started terrariums. This is also a way that we can grow some of our tropical plants. Our homes tend to be dry, especially in the winter time. This terrarium then provides the high humidity that is needed by some of the tropicals. If you can think about being amongst trees and the humid wetness of the tropics. And also, I enjoy terrariums because it's a small indoor garden that chases my winter blues away. We can also use terrariums as a place to propagate plants by cuttings or by seeds. So it'd be a way to propagate some of the succulents and still have a nice little garden, but with an open top. Or in some cases, with the closed top, you can go ahead and propagate other types of plants and then let them grow from there. Because sometimes it is hard to find some small plants for certain sizes of terrariums. There are many different kinds of containers available. Again, without lids, with lids. It just needs to be clear. A benefit of the terrariums too is it takes little care. The humidity inside the container just keeps itself watered. The other part is, though, we will learn as we go through this presentation that if there's too much water, that's not good for the plants. But if it's balanced correctly, it pretty well takes care of itself. And terrariums can be used as decorations. Some of the challenges of terrariums is possibly overwatering, especially when you start to plant. We want to have a little bit of water around our newly transplanted plants inside, but sometimes I found that I can get it too much water and then we have problems. The other one is finding small plants. I always suggest to go locally to find your plants, but if you can't, you might have to order it online. Sometimes too, if you find bigger plants, you might find some smaller plants growing with it and just divide it and use the smaller ones in the terrarium. There is also a tendency to overfill with soil. When it's too full of soil, the plants don't have any place to grow. And then adding too much rock at the bottom because we think, well, this looks pretty, we'll add a little more, and then it's too much. And sometimes you're at the end and then you find out, I'm going to have to redo this because there's just too much rock. With the containers being clear, a fishbowl works, an aquarium. So sometimes we have these possibly back in our storage units, or maybe as we go for yard sales, we can find inexpensive containers, large bottles, gallon jars, maybe a tall vase that would be open, candy jars, cookie jars work as well. If you have already used containers, make sure that you clean them so that we're not introducing any kind of diseases into the system for it, just fungi or anything from former plants if you've used one before for plants. So you can also use containers that are more with a narrow neck. It just is a little more challenging to put the plants in. So what kind of plants can we use for terrariums? Well, we need plants that need high humidity if we're going to keep it closed. We can use the succulents for open containered plants. Always select disease-free plants and then insect-free plants as well. And again, that last reminder of succulents and open terrariums, otherwise, as we know, they will rot. Some examples of plants, I don't have them all pictured, but I did provide the scientific name with them so that a common name to me can be a different common name to someone else. So baby tears, we have creeping fig, and that one is shown in the photograph. Emerald ripple is a type of peperomia. Violet flame, gold dust dracaena, or a nerve plant, and the nerve plant is in the photograph. Nerve plant can be that pinkish reddish color, but it can also be white. Satin Paulownia. Then we also have strawberry begonia, and pictured here is a Swedish ivy. All nice houseplants. Watermelon peperomia, variegated leaf peperomia, and then we also have a spider plant, which again may be to you an airplane plant. And those are nice. Just get the small plantlets off of the plant and propagate them. Put them in the terrarium. Plants that are taller than 6 inches are an aluminum plant, an arrowhead plant, which is in the photograph, and there are different species of begonias. We're doing these variation in heights, so it gives it more artistic interest. We have a bloodleaf and English ivy. Sometimes that ivy gets taller. Some of that also will tend to creep around in the terrarium. And then a false aurelia is what's photographed. Maidenhair fern, polka dot plant, which is in the photograph, or a pothos, or also called devil's ivy. Waffle plant. Usually waffle plant is kind of a darker color leaf, so again adds interest. A philodendron, and then a parlor palm, and that is what is photographed here in this picture. Also, with those different plants, they provide different textures too, so keep all those design elements in mind. Materials basically to make a terrarium include a clear container, decorative rock. I like to use decorative rock. You could also use sand, decorative sand. We need activated charcoal, soilless media, plants, and decorations. So to make a terrarium, we start with a container. This is actually a clear cookie jar. The container, again, can be larger or smaller. It just depends on the size of your plants. Add clean rock to the bottom, and this is for drainage. You can use aquarium rock. If you have other rock that's not clean, make sure it is washed. Rocks that are there to promote the drainage, some place for that water to go to if it's overdrained. Overwatered. Add to a depth of about 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch. Then on top of that, we layer activated charcoal. This absorbs the odors that could possibly form because we have a closed system. You might have to go to a pet store or go into the pets section of a store or online because it's not always easy to find activated charcoal for terrariums. Many times it's for fish aquariums. We use soilless media in these containers again because one, it does drain well, and two, it doesn't bring in the weed seeds and disease organisms like garden soil does. So ideally, our potting mix would contain peat, perlite, and it might have some vermiculite in it. Always lightly moisten the soil before you put it in because once it's not moistened, it tends to stay dry. And we're going to add it to a depth, maybe of 1.5 to 2 inches. So sometimes it seems like, well, I have little bigger plants. They're in a pretty deep pot. How do I only put them in 1 to 2 inches of soil? Well, you take the plant, remove it from its container, and then you might have to gently tease some of the soil out, and you might have to root prune it just a little bit just to make it fit into your hole. So as we see, I've made a depression or a hole in the soil, and those where I'm going to place my plants. Once they're placed in there, gently fill around the plant. Now, if it's hard to get both of your hands inside, you might use a spoon. It could be something that you throw away or something that you're using, and gently take the soil and push it around the roots and gently firm it in. We're going to continue to add plants, and your design can be placed in a group towards one side, or you might put them toward the middle, or you can actually spread them equally out. And that's what I chose to do in this particular instance. Again, if the plants are too large, you might have to remove some stems, you might have to divide it, or you may have to cut some tips out of the plant itself, or remove some leaves or other stems. Odd numbers is always a good design option, so it's the best, and that's what I like to do. When the plants are in, then lightly mist around the plants, or if you take a few teaspoons, if you don't have something to mist around the plants, we want to get a good soil to root contact without overwatering. In this particular photograph, you can see that the parlor palm's a little bit big. So at this point, we'd take scissors and go down in there and judiciously snip out some of the leaves. And you will see along the edge usually another leaf coming out, so that'll fill in eventually. The fun part is adding clean rock or adding sand to mimic pathways, maybe a field. You can make it look like cattle are out in the field or out uh, eating some of the grass with green sand. So there's a wide variety. Fairy gardens are very popular, or even gnomes. So create whatever you would like to. That's the fun with the fairy gardens and some of the little fairy houses and gnome houses. They're really fun to work with. You can see in this one photograph, they are using chopsticks to place some items, and that may be what you need to use to help get them where you want them. Just create and have fun. To take care of it, place it in a bright location out of direct sunlight, because remember, inside that container, it's going to act like a greenhouse. So many times our indirect light is on the north or northeast side. But if you don't have that situation, just place it in a site away from a window. Observe it. It may not need water for a few months, or if it wasn't moistened enough, it may need water sooner. But you can use a few teaspoons to water that area to keep from being in a situation where, like I do, accidentally bump my watering can and apply too much water. It's a good idea to rotate those containers to keep them from leaning towards the sunlight and being one-sided. Open the lid if it becomes foggy on the glass. This way, by opening it, we can let some of that excess water evaporate and then close it again. After 1 or 2 years, you may need to prune some of the plants or actually remove overgrown plants. To me, terrariums equal fun and a long-term enjoyment. Once I start doing one, it never stays at one. Seems to increase to a couple more, but it just depends on what you have available. And this can be done any time of year. So that's a way to be able to garden no matter when or what the weather is like.